Continuando con nuestro programa, ha llegado el momento de invitar a nuestro keynote speaker, el señor Thomas Snyder, quien nos brindará unas palabras muy importantes para nuestros graduados. El señor Thomas Snyder es director general durante un periodo de 25 años de las empresas internacionales del grupo Hamilton, con intereses mundiales en petroquímica, agricultura y transporte, incluidos riesgos supervisados, proyectos de desarrollo para y con gobiernos, bancos, grupos de inversión, agencias de crédito a la exportación o PIC en más de 40 complejos industriales en 20 países. Además, cofundador, CEO y director de Agrovisión.
Our story begins in Olmos, Peru. Nestled in a natural greenhouse with a unique microclimate, this is where Agrovision was born a decade ago. And since then, we have become vertically integrated from the farm to the consumer and the leading grower and seller of premium blueberries globally. We have more recently established growing operations and commercial partnerships in Mexico, Chile, the USA, Morocco, China, India, and Romania to complement our reliable year-round supply to consumers in North America, Europe, and China. In a few short years, we have earned a reputation for delivering high-quality premium blueberries consistently at a competitive price point, which has enabled our unprecedented global growth and built strong competitive moats around our business. We have taken a strategic approach to genetics and have partnered with leading breeders to develop a broad portfolio of premium varietals to elevate the eating experience of berries and grow consumption of these superfruits. We are at the forefront of innovation within the industry, and our technology partners are leaders in next-generation agriculture, automation, and AI. Impact is at the heart of our operation, and we are aligned with 11 of the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. All this has earned us the most prestigious certifications. Today's consumer is now more than ever focused on health, wellness, and transparency. Blueberries are aligned with these desires through their extensive health benefits, combined with a growing global middle class, a driving demand for blueberries globally, with per capita consumption rising rapidly compared to that of more traditional fruits. We see the total addressable market for premium blueberries growing from $1.4 billion today to an estimated $10 billion by 2030. We have invested $300 million of capital in our operation since 2016, with plantings accelerating each year. The maturation of our asset base provides highly visible, fully funded, consistent cash flows and growth for years to come. At the same time, we are still early in our journey and just embarking on our next phase of global growth. We will continue to execute on our strategic vision, and we are on track to maintaining our status as one of the world's leading premium superfruits companies. Agrovision. This is only the beginning.
Buenos dias. First of all, I have to apologize for my Spanish, which is non-existent practically. In any event, we'll translate. So, dear Mr. Rector of the University, UPN, Jose Gonzalez, Dean of the Faculty of Business, Augusto Caceres, academic directors, coordinators, professors, graduates, parents, and relatives. First of all, congratulations to each one of you graduates. It was a long road. You've made it, across the bay, so to speak, and now entering the ocean of life. It's a pleasure for me to be here today to tell a bit of my story and how some of it relates to you as graduates of a prestigious university armed with a business degree to tackle the challenges you will face in becoming successful leaders in all areas of life. My background: I was born in a small town of 7,000 people in Iowa, the United States. At 16, I went to a boys' boarding school, Shattuck School in Minnesota, to Trinity College in Connecticut, got a BA in economics, followed by a JD degree from the University of Virginia Law School with focus on international law. I was then 25, more or less your ages, and left the States and have not lived there since, but have visited often for business and family relations. My wife is Dutch. Next year, we celebrate our 60th wedding anniversary. We have two successful sons, also in international business. I have done extensive business in more than 25 countries around the world, and Brussels in Belgium has been my principal home for decades. Although I live here now, I've been here for the last 10 years. Out of law school, I went to work for an international division of a privately owned U.S. firm specialized in building, primarily in developing countries, large turnkey petrochemical projects, mainly nitrogen-based fertilizer complexes. The company engineered, arranged financing, constructed, and trained personnel, and we always took a minority equity position in companies. In education, I served for 27 years as president of the board of directors of a privately owned international school in Belgium with approximately 1,000 students. I can't count the number of boards of directors I've served on. My whole business life has been international, with many peculiar experiences. I'd like to relate a couple of these stories to add some levity to the start of a speech. A few days, in the 1980s, I went to a board meeting in Nigeria. A few days before I arrived, the head of our accounting department there fell and broke his leg. My office said to me that it thought it'd be nice if I go say hello to him. I visited him in the hospital. There were several members of his family sitting in the room, and there was a chicken tied by a rope around one leg hanging at the end of his bed, flapping like crazy, frantically around. So I asked Jefferson, the name of the guy, what the story with the chicken was. He said, "Oh, Mr. Snyder, when the chicken dies, my leg will be cured and I can go home." All I could think of to say is, really? Second story. I happened to be in Madagascar, where we built a huge chemical complex. Again, I went to attend a board meeting. A few days after the meeting, I went to the airport to fly back to Paris. There was a lot of commotion at the airport. The airport was very small. There was only one flight a day to Europe. Looking around, looking out the window of the airport, I saw a man sitting on the ground underneath a Boeing 747 airplane. He wanted to take us back to Paris. I asked what was going on. I was told there was a casket in one of the luggage holes of the 747 containing the body of the man's wife who had passed away in France. They had years earlier a huge fight, and she left and went to Paris to live. She specifically indicated that when she died, she did not want to be buried in Madagascar. When the plane arrived several hours earlier from Paris, the staff mechanics could not open the section of the plane. The husband and her family, who were at the airport to receive the body casket, saw what was happening. And the husband asked the authorities if he could talk for a few minutes to his wife and convince her to be buried there. Within 15 minutes of my arriving, the man stood up, walked to the terminal, and said to the authorities, "It's okay. I've just spoken to my wife, and you can take off. She agrees to be buried here." Believe it or not, they walked out, opened the hole, and it opened. So it was in the mid-1970s. I saw it with my own eyes. I have no explanation to say my international life has often been very fascinating. This brings me to Peru and AgriVision, a short video of which you have just seen. There are two founders of AgriVision, Steve Megami and myself. Steve's background is investment banking, private equity, and managing companies in which his group invested. He had experience in Peru in 2007, successfully arranging financing for a startup company in the biofuels field. Steve saw the opportunity to do more here and asked me to join him. I came here for the first time in mid-1980. The idea at the time was to build ethanol plants based on sugarcane. However, a few months later, in September 2008, the huge investment firm Lehman Brothers in New York declared bankruptcy, and the entire capital markets of the world seized up, and you could not raise a penny for any development. Consequently, we stopped and waited until 2013, when it seemed investment capital could be raised. I then returned to Peru. AgriVision had been formed, Steve is executive chairman. I'm CEO. We're both directors. Steve is decades younger, a visionary in many ways, and the real driving force in the company today. Now the question was what to do. Ethanol was dead. He'd already acquired some land. After many market and water studies and nursery trials with several fruits and vegetables, we decided on fruits, in particular blueberries, grapes, avocados, and asparagus, much later limes. My only experience in agriculture was that from the age of 8, I had to hold the weeds in my grandmother's garden, and I hated it. I told my grandmother many times I would never go into agriculture, an early example of how plans change. The real relevance to you is to demonstrate what is possible to achieve in Peru when one decides to pursue a goal. We are two non-Peruvians, practically no Spanish, no experience in agriculture, in a country with generations of successful agriculture country, a country with complicated politics, etc. Nevertheless, we saw an opportunity in the market and decided to go for it. Under these circumstances, many people might reasonably conclude we were absolutely insane and had very little chance of success. However, we possessed a substantial amount of business experience and had the support of a very strong board of directors and shareholders. Fear of failure has never been a concern. Once the objectives were in place, we pursued them with relentless determination. To move forward, there was a lot to be done. We had to find land, water, obtain endless numbers of permits, authorizations, etc. Although we always had the support and encouragement of the respective government agencies, the banks for startups in Peru are a problem. They want to lend against cash flows and not against assets, which all of you will understand. Although we had land, we did not have cash flow because we were a startup and years away from production. Hence, to proceed, we had to find and bring together a consortium of international banks, environmental investment funds, hedge funds, agricultural funds, private high net worth individuals, etc. After we got going, then of course, the banks jumped in. Today we have the support of almost all the banks in Peru. Our mission really is transforming lands and lives. We started with bare desert land and transformed it into productive land, and in the process created thousands of jobs. We're not a mining company. We're not exporting minerals from the country. We're taking pure desert and converting it into productive food. The process created thousands of jobs. In spite of at times insurmountable challenges, we charged ahead. In 10 years, we built AgriVision into the world's leading and fastest growing producer of premium blueberries and other superfruits. Our main objective was to build not just an agricultural company, but the most modern one possible, with the latest tech applications, etc. In fact, to be the leader in everything related to agriculture. This included packing in warehouses, planting the latest genetics of premium blueberries. We have a data collection system second to none in the industry. This gives us visibility on every buyer in the world, what every buyer in the world sells. We plant fields according to the demands in every market. We can even divert containers in the water if there's a sudden hike in prices in a particular market. The company is vertically integrated globally with operations in Mexico, Morocco, United States, China, India, to try to boost our 52 year-round supply with sales and marketing offices in all major markets that are consumers of premium blueberries. 1/3 of our production goes to Asia, 1/3 to the States, and 1/3 to Europe. I still marvel at the fact that we can harvest blueberries in Olmos or Merope, Peru, and in 6 weeks' time, we can have them in all the major supermarkets, for example, in China, everywhere. That has not been easy to achieve. AgriVision acquired in several steps a total of 4,100 hectares in Olmos, the H2 Olmos project. That's that government-sponsored 38,000 hectare program. And then we leased 12,000 hectares from the community in Merope. To get around the issues that you have in so many developing countries of owning land, which is always very sensitive, We prefer to lease on long term. That way, when there's an election every 2 or 3 or 4 years, government's changed, we're not accused of buying off the previous administration and taking their land. So we lease it, and no matter which political party is in power, they receive every month from us a substantial lease or lease payment check. An enormous amount of time was spent on putting together an outstanding management team. Without that, none of what we have done would have been possible. For our key people, we award equity in the company, which is rarely done here. When managers are shareholders, their view on the company and its future changes noticeably. I don't know why in Peru you don't have owners of companies issuing shares and equity to star performers in their company. I think it's a huge mistake. It's been a big bonanza for us, and it's an issue here. Now, not to bore you with a lot of statistics, let me run through these things to give you an idea of the size of the company. 2022, our revenues were $270 million. We produced 3 million kilos of blueberries. Our payroll is approximately $65 million a year. We have permanent employees of 2,000. During harvesting, it goes as high as 12,000 workers. We're the largest employer in Lambayeque. Approximately 50% of the employees and workers are women, most of whom have never had a job because there are no jobs available in those areas. Lambayeque is one of the poorest provinces of Peru. Now these women have a job and a bank account. I can tell you the sense of self-esteem for women in this area who've never had jobs, rarely had jobs, when all of a sudden they have permanent jobs and a bank account, the sense of self-esteem is palpable. You see it immediately. We're very proud that we've been able to do that. Labor transportation is the second biggest cost for us. Up to 400 buses a day transport personnel between the farms and the surrounding communities. Total investment today is approximately $300 million, which increases daily as more and more land is acquired and planted. We built state-of-the-art packing and warehouse facilities covering more than 40,000 square feet of space. We built a 4,000 persons camp to house workers and employees with all related dining and kitchen facilities. Included our recreational activities, football fields, gyms, entertainment rooms. We built laboratories second to none to meet and exceed SENASA requirements. We built a huge R&D facility, research and development, to test and develop new genetics. UPN and AgriVision, in fact, signed in 2018 an applied research and innovation agreement that allows UPN students and faculty to conduct research, projects, initiatives in agriculture using our farms and facilities when required. Why the north of Peru? Well, it's a unique climate for agriculture with sun almost every day of the year, except for those years when there's no Niño, and then only for a couple of months. There's available labor, available land to lease, available water, extensive aquifers. They're 200 meters deep, but there's plenty of water. Water licenses from the ANA, environmental impact studies, the Ministry of Agriculture under permits are complicated, take time, but obtained relatively quickly and compared to a lot of areas in the world. Environment and sustainability, of course, is vital today. In past decades, when one wanted to go to a bank and borrow money, the first thing they wanted to see were your financial statements. Today, no. The first thing they want to see are your ESG reports, your carbon cap report, carbon emissions reduction reports, all that, all these studies. So we saw this early on, and we focused on this area and developed with environmental and carbon footprint consultants and specialists programs that made us leaders. We've received countless awards in Europe, South America, and Peru. The government of Peru has awarded us this prestigious Antonio Brock Award for National Environment Award in 2020. Carbon footprint in Peru, level 1 recognition, 2020. Ministry of Environment recognized AgriVision as the only agricultural corporation in the country to have achieved level 3 for accreditation in the measurement of carbon footprint. This year, we were the only agricultural company in Peru to be recognized by the Ministry of Environment for outstanding work. Community and social activities. It's not sufficient today to be only a major employer. creator of jobs and communities. But it is imperative to build goodwill and be responsible citizens, so to speak. The following is a list of some of our activities in surrounding communities. We have what we call medical journeys every 5 or 6 weeks with many of the surrounding areas. They're very poor. And I mean, I can't emphasize, for those of you who've not visited some of these areas in Peru, poverty is staggering. You go into some homes, you have dirt floors, one electricity line in there, many children running around, and it is really, really poverty. So we have these medical journeys. In cooperation with local government and community leaders, we have for years regularly provided free medical assistance and prescriptions to surrounding villages where there is very limited medical help. For example, on selected Saturdays, we take over a local school and provide 6 doctors, 6 nurses, 1 dentist to provide medical assistance to those families who don't have any medical help, free. We organize football leagues. We donate thousands of Christmas baskets, thousands of them, to all the children in the surrounding areas. We provide online English lessons to students who want to learn English. We donate water pumps, generators when requested, supplies daily waters in some communities that don't have water. In conjunction with the church, we finance regularly the travel of nuns from the Sister of the Holy Cross here to Chiclayo to provide lectures and help, therapy to families with abused and battered women. We provide school supplies when requested, wheelchairs to hospitals, etc. In very broad terms, this is the AgriVision story to date. We're by no means finished, but we've had a good start. Our goal is to have a $2 billion company in 2 years and then probably go public. Now, I'd like to add some personal comments that hopefully are helpful to you graduates. I've been in business for a long time. I'm 85 years old. I continue to love what I do. You are entering a world with major wars, Sudan, which I know very well, the Ukraine, which I know well, and Israel. When I was your age, Vietnam was starting, where I lost several close friends, followed by Iraq, conflicts in Serbia, Ireland, and so on. I was born in '38, before the Second World War. My point is that peace is elusive. If history is correct, it'll never be achieved completely, and you just have to live with it. Let me tell you a true story of a man who tried to avoid it. James Michener, a popular author in the 60s, years ago, tells the story of a professor at a university in Australia who in 1937 saw the war clouds gathering over Europe and Asia, which would engulf the world into another world war. He lost a member of his family in World War I and wanted no part of another war. So what he decided to do was to search for an island somewhere in the world which would be totally self-sufficient with water, fruit, vegetables, cattle, etc., and would not likely be involved in any war. He found one and moved there in 1938. You know what the name of the island was? Iwo Jima. The site of some of the worst battles in the Pacific in the Second World War. Thousands of Japanese and American soldiers died there, and the island was completely destroyed. Get my point. Be prepared to live with conflict. I just read that a think tank here called Instituto de Estudios Peruanos published a poll taken in September last month, stating that 60% of those between the ages of 18 to 24 and 51% of the people between 25 and 39 have plans to leave Peru and seek a future abroad. If this is correct, if these numbers are correct, this is terrible for your country. The very people who are needed to help Peru are abandoning it. Instead of addressing the reasons why they are leaving, they are running away. This makes the challenge for each of you even greater. Poverty levels have to be decreased. I have worked in so many countries around the world where this has not been done by those in a position to help and have seen the consequences. I spent 1 year of my life over a 6-year period in Venezuela before Chavez, building with the government one of the largest fertilizer complexes in South America. All one had to do was to drive from the airport in Maiquetía to the city of Caracas and look at the never-ending barrios packed with extremely poor people to conclude what could happen and which in fact did, as you all know, terrible. What's the answer? No question, education plays a huge role. This puts the spotlight on each of you graduating from one of the very best universities in South America, armed with business degrees. You now have the tools to create jobs, build businesses, and institutions in all fields that not only advance your careers, but the country as well. The opportunities for each one of you are enormous. In fact, stare you in the face. Just look around. Travel throughout your country and try to find some place where something is not needed. Medical, infrastructure, textiles, government, housing, logistics, computer science, and all the possibilities that AI will bring, most of which we can't even envisage today. And you're all starting at the time of this development. To improve government when needed, join political parties and take government positions. Help improve what needs correcting, decrease poverty. If you don't, who will? And then consequences. You don't have to leave Peru to find opportunities. Believe me, they are here. When two non-Peruvians can come here and build in 10 years a major international corporation, you can certainly do it yourselves. We're not magicians. Don't be afraid to fail. You can fill books with cases of people who have failed and picked themselves up and gone on to great success. Don't run from challenges. Face them. Make Peru exciting, a vibrant country. For all the reasons each of you know, you don't really have a choice unless you elect to run away. I have never believed the Lord has put us on this earth where there is so much need to find some way for us to sit on a beach somewhere and drink pisco sours for the rest of our lives. And you don't believe it either, or you wouldn't be sitting here today. Let me give you a couple of tips for success. Whatever you do with your careers, you must find a field that fascinates you, totally absorbs you so you live it daily. Avoid 9-to-5 jobs like the plague. You must never get comfortable. As soon as you're comfortable, you stop creating, you stop inventing. Life comes to almost a standstill. Whatever you find yourself slipping into a comfort zone, run, get out. Learn to embrace stress. It's the engine of success. It keeps you awake at night, dreaming of new fields to conquer. Most of all, continue to strive to be an interesting person. Continue to educate yourselves. There is little worse than sitting next to a boring person. Read, read, and read. Don't rely on social media as the only source of information. Question most things. At my age, 85, I'm often asked when I plan to retire. When I answer, I am retired, you get this perplexed look on the faces that you're still working. Listen, I was 73 when AgriVision was started. The last 10 years have not been idle. For most, retirement means doing something you really enjoy doing, and that is exactly what I'm doing. And I encourage each of you to do the same. Find a field that envelops you. Keep running, keep creating. I want to leave you with the absolute conviction today that as of today, you can do anything you want with your life. You have a clean sheet. Your future is in your hands. Listen to me. You can do whatever you want to do with your lives. Don't forget that. Don't get tied down with the demons of fear. You have a clean sheet. Future's in your own hands. Don't waste time negotiating with yourself. Fight human nature's reluctance to change. When you find what you want to do it no matter how many people tell you it can't be done, or how many barriers are in front of you, or how many risks there are. You have the education, the tools to pursue what you want to do, and you can do it. Let me leave you with one last thought. When I was a young man, after finishing school, to make my way in the world, exactly your age, I developed a fear that I had to do something with my life besides exist, or there would be unwanted consequences. Namely, that when I stood before the Lord on Judgment Day and would be asked, well, Snyder, what have you done with the life I have given you? Is the world a little bit better because you were there? From this, I developed what I call the empty suitcase. I don't know where it came from, but it's called the empty suitcase. All of us are given an empty suitcase when we start out in life. We put into it all the good things we do for others besides our families, so that on Judgment Day, one can hopefully answer the Lord, I've got a full suitcase. Keep it in mind. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you today. I hope I've been able to encourage all of you to do something meaningful with your lives. Stay focused, pursue what you're doing with relentless determination, Pour oil on your ambitions, not water. I implore you to stay in your country, build it, fix what needs fixing yourselves, and make it vibrant, and avoid too many pisco sours. At AgriVision, we love Peru. We are endeavoring to help you grow. Congratulations again, as they say in sports. Warm-up time is over. It's game time. May all of you, in your own ways, become Peruvian stars. Make a difference. Best of luck to each of you. May God bless you and accompany you on your journeys. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.